All right, guys, Craig Beggins here, C21 Beggins Enterprises, broker for going on 31 years and about 51,000 transactions or more. This is the buyer question series, and agent said, hey, we get these questions, I want to make sure I'm answering them right. And this one drives me crazy. And I'm going to be facetious when I say this, and then I'll tell you how to do it. But the question is, what's the best way to do a simultaneous move? Don't. There are just too many things that get screwed up. Period. End of story. Think about what has to happen. We coordinate title, we coordinate surveys, we coordinate lenders, we coordinate all these things to make your move possible. Now that's enough on one transaction, but now you got a buyer who's selling their house in California that wants to sell that house in California on Thursday and wants to close on the house here in Florida on Thursday. And then the house in Florida on Thursday, that seller's got to go somewhere. And we get these, we call them trains, where this one has got to be perfect in California. They got to get done in time. The wire transfer's got to be sent because the money's got to get to this title company to close it on Thursday. And then we got to close the Florida house. And then the seller of the Florida house has to have his money in his hand before the wire transfer deadlines to get to another house to close. And it always works out that there's a problem, right? And here's part of the problem. The movers a truck with their furniture on it, and they're scheduled like it's a logistics nightmare, right? They're going to be here at 10 o'clock to unload because you got a closing at 9, right? And they got to get their furniture. I was going to say crap. I did say crap. They're going to get the furniture off their truck so they can take that truck to put it to the next move they got going. But if something happened, and let's say the wire got held up or got misdirected or any little thing that happened, or the house wasn't broom swept clean, or something happened at closing got delayed and they can't get the stuff off the truck, it moves that, challenges that move to the next location, and then they're going to start charging you for holding the material on their truck. And if you can't give them a guarantee that that truck's going to be on the road today, they're going to take it to a warehouse, they're going to offload the truck, they're going to charge you for that, they're going to put it in storage, they're going to charge you for that, they're going to have to load it back on the truck, they're going to charge you for that, then they're going to deliver it to your house, they're going to charge you for that. So people don't think about this. So I like to leave time between, right? Maybe you know in advance, hey, put it on the truck, leave it on the truck for a couple days, plan for it, stay in go to Embassy Suites and get a nice little place. You can either bring in takeout or Uber Eats or whatever you do. Have a nice peaceful transition, because it's just a nightmare to do it. It really is. It takes a lot of coordination. It does happen, but I would say more times than not there's problems than it goes smooth, right? Now, if you're dealing with cash transactions, that's a little better. And then inevitably what happens is something goes wrong, and then somebody wants to do a lease occupancy after closing. The seller wants to stay longer because their place isn't ready. Something happened, that buyer didn't fail, or the buyer wants to move in early because their loan got held up for some reason. Every one of those is a nightmare. I mean, I tell my agent, I don't even want you writing holdover occupancy clauses. We have an attorney write them, and he writes them brutally strong. Like, put an extra $20,000 down. Give me your entire down payment. And if you don't get out of this house in 3 days, we're going to keep your entire down payment, and we're going to hire the police and evict you from the building. And then you get these other problems because, and I sound like a lawyer when I say this, what if you got an HO3 policy or homeowner's policy? Well, who does that insure? The seller who owns the home. Well, the seller doesn't own the home anymore. Well, he does own the home, but he's not living in it. He lets a tenant move in. Well, you don't have a tenant policy. So what happens is, I always say, they fall asleep, smoking pot in the bedroom, the drapes catch on fire. Well, it's not their house. Now the seller's policy is not going to cover him because he's using it as a rental, but he didn't have a rental rider in his homeowner's policy. These little problems just stop up, and I say, God, just don't do it. There's a day lapse in between, makes it so much better, and you can plan for that on the front end. But when it wasn't planned for and it becomes a problem, it's a problem, right? So that's why we have hotels and temporary housing and VRBOs and those type of things. So it's a little more expensive maybe. In a perfect world, it'd be great. If you're dealing cash, we can probably handle it on both sides, but very seldom is it that way. And a lot of these, and that's why it's important, and I've said this probably in 8 of these series so far, the partnership between the real estate agent, the loan officer, and the consumer is critical. Absolutely critical to make sure everything works together, right? So cash, easy, everybody can close. If not, they can penalize themselves because they got enough money. But when you have these lenders involved, and that's why I said the relationship with lenders is important. When the agent says, hey, I work with Taylor, he's a great loan officer, we work together really well, that's good. But a lot of our buyers come to us pre-approved with and I don't mean anything bad about these lenders, but these nationwide lenders, They're in California, many of them. They're 3 hours behind us. So it's 5 o'clock here. They'll call us till 8 o'clock at night. And it's not conducive. And they just don't have the local knowledge, and things happen. Wire transfers get missed. We had a deadline for wire transfer. They're 3 hours behind, so they're not pushing the deadline. It's only 3 o'clock their time. Well, it's after our wire transfer time. And they, oh, sorry. And now our whole chain of closings is blown up. So how do you do a simultaneous move? Very carefully and plan for problems. And I'm sorry to say it that way, but it's a nightmare situation. Can it be done? Yes. Do we do them? Yep. Most of the time they work out okay. But it's just, I can't even say most of the time. Sometimes it works out okay. But usually there's some hard feelings on one side or the other. Arranging for the moves, the utilities, the power, all the stuff that has to be switched. It's got to be in your name. It's not your name. Then you're moving in, and the seller's still got it in their name. It's just, well, let's find another way. That would be my advice on how to coordinate a simultaneous move. So not what you wanted to hear, but that's real life practice from 50,000 transactions. Most of them go problematic.